Hello, snowboarders of the internet. I am your host, Kevin Hubb, here with the top 5 POW boards. I apologize that David couldn't be here. He's got the itis. Number 5 goes to K2 for the Overboard. This board comes in every size you need, as long as you need a 165. It is probably the closest thing I've ever ridden to feeling like that Japanese style board from stuff you get from Moss and Genten and TJ and those kinds of brands. There's just something about the way that those boards ride that's just different than what Western manufacturers do. And the Overboard was really the first board I've ridden from a Western style manufacturer that felt like that. It feels like a surfboard in snowboard shape. Not that I've ever been surfing, but I imagine that's what it floats great. Have you seen it? It's got a massive nose, a ton of taper, a short tail. It floats like crazy. And when it's not good out, it's still ridiculously fun to carve on groomers. Number 4 goes to a brand new board for this season from Lib Tech, the Orca. This is really Travis's kind of first foray into riding short fat stuff. And it's really, really good. I've been told that Travis actually rides the 53 in Japan. That says a lot about how well this board floats because he's not exactly small. I also rode the 53 and I've never had a board's tail sink that easy. It's pretty dang fast in POW, at least for me it was, and it still has a pretty good side cut. It still turns really well. It slashes really, really good. And as long as you're kind of right on top of the board in the right way with the camber profile, and this is just kind of the nature of anything that's rock or camber, but as long as you are, then that tail actually's got some good snap to it, and that really super kind of choppy, blunt tail to it does actually work really well, and I can't speak to how well this thing sinks in the tail and just how good it slashes. Number 3 is something that I know you guys have heard a lot about because it's, I believe, Avran's favorite POW board, and that is the Endeavor archetype. This board's just good. It's just really, really good. The swallowtail works extremely well. The day that I rode this, I did get into some deep snow with it a little bit here and there, but I primarily rode it on ice moguls. Not what I recommend riding a POW board. Really any snowboard. Don't ever ride on ice moguls. It's terrible. But I was following my skier friend, and for some strange reason, that's what he loves to ride. And this board handled it. And that is really what kind of pushed this board up on the list for me, is I know how well it's gonna float. And it carves great, and it rides crud really, really well. If you're looking for one POW board to be able to ride every kind of deep snow on, this board's good for that. Number 2 goes to something that I've very recently just gotten on, and that is the DC House of Powder. Now apparently the House of Powder is more or less the bald face of Japan. At least that's what I was told by one of the dudes at DC. I have no idea. I've not done any research on that. So that's kind of the idea of where it was designed around. It was designed around Japan POW, so a little bit lower angle, ridiculously deep, super fluffy, and light. I think it nails it. I think the shape is great. The side cut's fantastic. I think DC side cuts have always been really, really good. And what really sells this board for me is the flex on the tail. I rode the medium. I'm about 155, maybe 160 pounds, fully geared up. And it just had that perfect flex for me in a POW board, that it's got some substance to it where I know I'm gonna be able to pop off stuff. It's gonna have some support to it, but it's also just buttery enough and just powerful enough that I can really lay into slashes with it. So between the side cut, the way that that tail feels, and that overall shape, it's just really high on this list because of all those things that just come together perfectly. Honorable mentions before we get on to number 1. First honorable mention is the Burton Stun Gun. Number 2 of my honorable mentions goes to the Yes 420 Powder Hole. Next is the Moss Wing Pin. Number 1 goes to Rome. The POW Division Moontail. You thought I was gonna say Ravine, didn't you? I didn't. I said the POW Division Moontail. Again, I also got to ride this in Canada, and I got to ride it in real good POW, in steep, in tight trees, and it just was super, super good. There, I rode the 57, and I've since also ridden the 53, and they just have that super classic POW board shape to them. They've got that super blunt nose, the chopped off moon, blunt tail, set back, micro camber with early rise nose. Like, it's just that super classic POW shape. But what separates this from a lot of the other boards that are shaped like this is the flex of it. This is not a demanding board. It's not your super surfy, short, fat POW board that a lot of the other brands are making out there nowadays. It still has more of that kind of all mountains, maybe slightly stiffer than all mountain flex to it, but Most boards in this shape are stiff, aggressive freeride boards. So that's why I love this board so much, is it has that super classic POW shape that I just love riding. It just feels so familiar and so at home, and I think it just works so well in deep snow. But it has a flex that you don't have to muscle. You don't have to work hard to ride this board. So when you get into crud and hardpack, it doesn't beat you up, and it allows you to just ride it like a regular snowboard. You don't have to change your riding style coming from your everyday board to this, and it floats like crazy. This has been my top 5 powder boards. What did you think? Did your favorite board land on the list? Did I miss it? Am I an idiot for missing it? Leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation about it. If you're new around here, click the subscribe button and make sure you're smashing that bell so you get notifications when these things are coming out and when we got new projects coming. If you're interested in supporting us, check out Angry Snowboarder VIP. Thanks for watching. I've been your host, Kevin.